Time for All Things Money Matters now. The JSE looks to be trading firmer at midday with the rand resilient in the face of a strong dollar. That's after the U.S. Federal Reserve laid the groundwork for potentially bigger rate increases. For the latest developments in company news and market moves, we are joined now by Rella Suskin, Head of Research at Benguela Global Fund Managers. A very good afternoon to you. How are we faring at midday trade?
Hi. So as you mentioned, the JSE is certainly looking stronger. It's following Asian and European markets, which the Asian markets closed stronger. European markets also doing a lot better. And we're really seeing a sort of strength across the market. There's some weakness in the rand hedge stocks because our rand is looking quite a bit stronger today. So your likes of Naspers, Richemont are kind of holding our positive moves down slightly.
Let's take a look at company news. Benguela Resources has published their annual results and dividend declaration. How did they fare?
Yeah, so it was a very good result from Benguela, really driven by the massive improvement in coal prices over the last year. They reported revenue up 45% to 26 billion, and that's really driven by a 92% increase in the average realized coal price over the period. It's been a volatile period for the coal price over the last year. We've seen tensions increase between Australia and China. So we've seen a lot of coal being redirected away from Australia and China demanding our South African coal. And then also more recently, obviously, following the Russian-Ukraine invasion, we've seen the European markets demanding coal again because of possible limited supply of natural gas from Russia. Their sales volumes, though, were interrupted by poor performance from Transnet. So their sales volumes were 18% lower. Management's very confident about continued strength in the coal price going forward, both into 22 and beyond. I think coal's got quite a bad name over the last couple of years as there's more scrutiny on the environmental side of things. But as we can see, I mean, particularly in developing nations, we do rely still heavily on coal. And as investment sort of dies down in the coal sector, but demand still kind of continues to remain there, we're going to see some support for coal prices.
Let's take a look at news from Murray & Roberts' subsidiary. They've secured a 16.5 billion rand inland rail project in Australia. What does that contract entail?
Yeah, so I mean, it's positive news for Murray & Roberts. They've been operating in Australia doing this kind of work for about 100 years. They're very experienced in this area. It's quite material to their order book. So at their last reported period, their order book was at about 60 billion rand. So the 16.5 billion is almost 30% of the existing order book. So certainly gives them a nice pipeline of growth over the next few years. They are combining with other Australian construction companies in the region. So it's really a consortium that will be executing on this rail project, which is positive from a risk point of view because often these very big projects do see cost overruns. So by splitting it among a number of companies, that does sort of limit any sort of cost downside that there might be to this project.
Merafe has delivered a record profit in 2021. Talk us through the numbers.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the highest profit they've delivered since the joint venture began with Glencore. South Africa is the majority supplier of chrome and ferrochrome globally, supplying about half the world's chrome ore. So really, they're in a very strong position from a competitive advantage point of view. Their revenue was up 69%, and that's really driven by also a strong recovery in the ferrochrome price. I mean, we've seen commodity prices across the board seeing a very strong year during 2021, and it's largely driven by the recovery in demand by China. So Merafe is very much dependent on Chinese demand. They demand about 69% of ferrochrome and produce by far the largest producer of stainless steel, which is the main use for ferrochrome globally. The rise in revenue was coupled with a strong increase in profitability. They were loss-making last year due to lower prices, but also lower volumes related to COVID stoppages. So their EBITDA improved from a loss of 168 million last year to a profit of 2.4 billion this year. So a strong swing in profitability. Again, the outlook looks positive. They do see continued strong demand from China, and that will support ferrochrome prices.
Rella Suskin is head of research at Benguela Global Fund Managers. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.